Let's take a closer look at Virtel Web Access. It is the base configuration for the Virtel product line, and it functions as a browser-based 3270 terminal emulator. Virtel Web Access serves 3270 screens such as those of CICS, IMS, TSO, or Natural as standard HTML5 JavaScript web pages with 3270 terminal emulation presentation, layout, and ergonomics to thin clients straight off the mainframe without the need for middle-tier servers. Virtel Web Access is a modern alternative to traditional 3270 terminal emulators that rely on client applets. With Virtel, the client applet of traditional 3270 terminal emulators is replaced by the combination of a plugin-free web browser, standard web browser, and the standard HTML JavaScript web page that Virtel serves to that browser. It works instantly with any web client available today, any version of Windows, any Apple product, any tablet or mobile device. And it will work as long as web browsers can render standard HTML5 JavaScript web pages like those generated and served by Virtel, which is to say for the foreseeable future. The deployment couldn't be simpler because there are no applets, no middle-tier servers, and no Java components to deploy. All you have to do is instruct the users to point their web browsers to an installation-defined URL and port. The administration and support also couldn't be simpler because, again, there are no client applets, no middle-tier servers, and no Java components to administer and support. The administration and support are 100% centralized on the mainframe host. Now, let's review the key benefits that result from Virtel's unique architecture. As discussed earlier, Virtel's thin client browser-based architecture makes for a much simpler installation, administration, and support. The installation, administration, and support are 100% centralized on the mainframe host. There is nothing to install, administer, or support on the clients, no Java components, and no applets or plugins. The deployment couldn't be simpler. Just instruct the users to point their web browsers to an installation-defined URL and port. The ZOS and ZVSC technical support team can do everything themselves. They no longer need to rely on the desktop support team. And the support requirements are drastically reduced, which reduces cost and which allows the support team to focus on other priorities. Another benefit of Virtel's thin client browser-based architecture is that it works instantly with any platform, any operating system, and any web browser. There is nothing to do to support new client technologies. As long as a new client device has a web browser that can render standard HTML5 JavaScript pages, Virtel Web Access will work for that new client device. Another benefit of Virtel's thin client browser-based architecture is that it is much more secure than traditional 3270 terminal emulators that rely on client applets and TN3270 connections. Virtel relies on end-to-end SSL encrypted HTTPS connections. The encryption is provided through IBM's ATTLS or ICSF encryption services, which are compliant with the latest FIPS and TLS levels. Today it's FIPS 142 and TLS 1.2 or 1.3. Consequently, a VPN is no longer needed to encrypt the data exchange on the connections. Also, there are no solution components residing on the client devices, where they could be compromised and used for unauthorized access to mainframe assets. No Java components and no client applets. User-defined macro can even be stored on the mainframe. that's what we recommend, to ensure that they are not used for unauthorized access to mainframe assets in case the client device is compromised. VDI stands for Virtual Device Infrastructure. With VDI, the client devices are super light. The only software installed on those client devices are the operating system, web browser, and maybe a few extensions or applets such as a remote desktop applet to support the client devices remotely, the Salesforce browser extension if users need to access Salesforce, the Citrix receiver to access the Citrix cloud. All applications are accessed through the web browser, and that is the case for mainframe applications, which with Virtel Web Access are accessed through the web browser and end-to-end SSL encrypted HTTPS connections. Another benefit of Virtel Web Access thin client browser-based architecture is that it makes it easy to integrate seamlessly the screen user interface to existing GUIs or web portals. We have done that for a few customers where both the terminal emulation and GUI auto-synchronize on a shared field, such as, for example, an account number. Change the account number in the screen interface and the GUI automatically positions on the new account. Change the account number in the GUI and the screen interface automatically positions itself on the new account. It makes toggling between the two interfaces much easier. Another benefit of Virtel Web Access over traditional applet-based terminal emulators is that it makes it possible to eliminate some products and in doing so, the associated licensing and support costs. Virtel features an application selection menu, which John Bakyoki will demonstrate in a few minutes. From this application selection menu, users can open multiple concurrent web browser tabs or instances, each of them hosting a new concurrent session. This works as a simple multi-session manager. About half our Virtel Web Access customers have eliminated their third-party session manager or replaced it with this facility. As discussed before, Virtel relies on SSL encrypted HTTPS connections between the mainframe and the client devices. Our Virtel customers no longer need a VPN to encrypt the data exchange on the connections with the client devices. And about 20 to 25% of them have simply eliminated their VPN. Think about how much you can save in licensing and support costs if you can eliminate your session manager and maybe your VPN. Now on to customer stories. One of the first users of Virtel Web Access was a global car manufacturer. In 2003, they needed to replace their costly private SLA network with more affordable internet connections. But with 400,000 users in 150 countries, deploying and supporting an applet-based solution was simply out of question. They needed a solution that would instantly support any web-enabled client device used anywhere in the world to keep the support requirements and consequently the total cost of ownership as low as possible. This is why they went with our Virtel-based solution. They were initially concerned with Virtel's scalability and performance because they had 400,000 users, of course. So they benchmarked Virtel and found that they could meet their required response time with up to 16,000 concurrent users per product instance, which was more than they needed. Finally, they used Virtel to automatically convert back and forth between different character sets used in their IMS database and those used by clients in other countries. This other new customer manages the largest commercial vehicle fleet in Europe. They are in 15 countries. Their business is similar to that of Penske's here in the US. They decided in 2017 to go 100% VDI, that is virtual device infrastructure. They replaced 1,500 Windows PCs with ultralight Chrome devices. The only software installed on those Chrome devices are the Chrome operating system, the Chrome browser, a remote desktop applet to support the devices remotely, the Salesforce extension to access the Salesforce CRM, and the Citrix receiver to access the Citrix cloud, in which are their legacy Microsoft Office and intranet documents. All other applications, including G Suite desktop applications and documents, and mainframe applications, are accessed directly from the Chrome browser. Virtel Web Access, of course, provides access to mainframe application screens.